live around the world, this is Paper Cuts with Brad and Jay.
We'll just get this out of the way here. Thanks for joining us on Brad's show.
Yeah, thanks for coming to my show. I did not say shenanigans. Okay.
Are you drinking already?
No, I've just got water. Always looking smooth, aren't you?
Yeah, I do it. I try to clean up for the show. Look, one of us has to. Come on. Tonight's special guest, L.J. Dougherty.
We are live.
Yes, we are. That is true professionalism. That was an awesome intro, wasn't it? It wasn't.
Pretty good.
Wasn't it?
Pretty good, Jake.
Welcome, everyone. Kicking off season 3 of Paper Cuts. My name is Jay. You know me, of course. Over there, my partner in crime, Brad.
You pointed the right way and everything.
I know.
Look,
well, I'm kind of pointing backwards too.
There we go.
The arthritis is acting up. I couldn't point straight. Brad, hey, we're back for season 3. This is starting to get a little scary.
I don't know why you're still hanging around here for whatever reason.
Exactly. How's your day been, man? I've been spending the day on Twitter trying to thin it out, like I was telling you.
Thinning the herd.
Well, I don't know what's going on Twitter. It scares the bejesus out of me sometimes, but like I miss everything. And so I've been trying to thin it out some, you know. I'm like, if I've never talked to you or you don't follow me, maybe I don't need to follow you. That just sounds mean, doesn't it? Yeah.
It does. I read a book today. I finished a book today. I finished this book.
Did you really?
This is the collector's edition because you can't get this cover anymore.
Yeah, that's right.
Oh.
Yeah, that one's,
that's
the
I might
OG cover.
put that on eBay for like $400, I think, one day.
Go for it.
For quite a while.
So speaking of that, with us tonight, we couldn't be happier for this writer joining us for season 3 to kick off for season 3. The writer of Beast of the Caliber Lodge and the recently released, right in January, Primal Reserve. We're going to talk a little espionage horror with L.J. Dougherty. Did I say it right?
You said it right. Yeah.
Jay's been practicing all week long.
All right. It shows.
Thanks for the phonetic spelling, by the way, when I asked you a couple weeks ago.
No problem. I'm used to having to give it. So
what's going on, man? You said you just got home from work a bit ago.
Yeah, just got home. So it's the weekend. So for everybody who works, I guess Monday through Friday, right? So my weekend. So yeah, I'm excited. Great way to start it off.
It's a kickoff to the weekend.
Yeah.
What are you normally doing at this time on a Friday night?
Hanging out with the wife and kiddo, probably doing like an afternoon hike or something like that. I'm on the West Coast, so.
Oh, okay. What time is it out there?
It's like 5 o'clock, so we still got a few hours of daylight left.
Nice. I don't even think I realized you were out there when we scheduled this. Did you, Brad? I didn't.
Yeah, I told you that, Jay. You just right over your head. It's that old age game.
It is. I've been a little scattered lately, a little scatterbrained lately. So.
But LJ, he's usually in the chat too, watching show. So we appreciate your support and stuff all the time.
Yeah, no problem. Absolutely. Yeah, I'm excited to be here. Thanks for inviting me.
So espionage horror, is that a genre you sort of made up, or is there other stuff you can find within espionage horror somewhere?
Right. So if we look it up on Wikipedia, it's going to have his name right next to it.
It's going to have LJ's name.
He created that genre. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know. I don't want to claim that no one's coined it before, but to the best of my knowledge, no one's coined it before. So
you should totally stick your flag in that.
Market. Yeah.
All right. Inventor of espionage horror. Yeah, as far as like titling it, right? But I think that there's other things that could fall into that category, right? And but haven't really been classified as that, and usually get classified as something else. But after I wrote my first book, after I wrote Beast of the Caliber Lodge, I was like, what genre is this specifically, right? Because it's horror, but it's also got other elements. Mm-hmm. And that was the I guess the catchy term I came up with. So.
Nice.
Yeah, I was telling you earlier, it feels like sort of vibes from James Bond and Indiana Jones, and then you throw in some monster, some horror aspects to it, all mixed together. I dug it a lot.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I think saying it's James Bond or Indiana Jones meets like Creature Feature is the easiest thing.
Yeah, it's a mashup. We all remember the Abbott and Costello meets Frankenstein and all of those.
Sure.
Now I'm showing my age. I apologize.
I was on another show a couple months ago, and Voices from the Mausoleum, actually, and so we talked about that, and I brought that up as one of my most influential horror films of all time is Abbott and Costello Frankenstein.
Yeah, I mean, they've had a couple like that, I think, haven't they? Like,
yeah, they did that one, The Mummy, I think, The Invisible Man, Dr. Jekyll, Mr. Hyde. Yeah,
I always loved those little crossovers. It was like a cross promoting before its time, before it was something like major. Nowadays, you do like two TV shows do a cross promoting where the characters go to from one show to the other. But they did it way back then when in the black and white ages. Like they were the original.
I think the coolest thing about that movie is that like Abbott and Costello, right? They do their parts obviously are comedic.
Right.
But the horror parts of it are straight up horror, right? Like it's not like parody horror. It's not
right.
toned down like Bela Lugosi in Abbott Costello Meet Frankenstein is the same as Bela Lugosi in Dracula, right?
Right.
Lon Chaney Jr. And so they play it straight, which I think is why that movie works so well. Because they didn't try and change the genre. They just, like you said, Jay, like mashed the genres together. So
I'm just wondering if we have any young listeners and viewers right now. They're going to be looking up what's this Abbott Costello they're talking about. I mean, it's 6 minutes into the show, and I'm making references from the 40s and 50s now.
Well, I mean, here's the thing: like way before my time, way before either of your guys' time. But like, that was something that my parents, showed me when I was younger, right? And,
well, it was on TV. It was on TV when I was in the 80s. I remember watching, Abbott Costello. Back when we still had the 3 channels and 4 channels.
Yeah.
Had to get up and turn the channel.
Turn the knob, static between each one.
Exactly. Yeah.
So you said that's your most influential horror movie?
It's one of them. Yeah, it was one of them. I think I picked like 5, and that was one of them.
What are the other ones? Not to steal their show, but go ahead.
The Shining is probably one of my top 5 favorite films of all time, but I put Get Out, Alien, and what was the other one I did? It Follows. I think was on there.
It Follows is very underrated, I think.
I think so too.
Appreciate it. Yeah, and underappreciate it. I mean, it's got the indie feel to it, but it's and it deals a lot with sex, but I think it's a little underrated for a horror film. You don't hear much about it. Yeah,
it's a great movie. I think Devil's Rejects was on there.
I love that.
And I brought that one up. Like that's really a mixed genre film as well. Like, in my opinion, because they took like the characters right from House of a Thousand Corpses, which is straight up horror. But Devil's Rejects is more of a crime movie, right? It's more like Bonnie and Clyde style, and so it was kind of the same way with Abbott and Costello, just a lot more violent and dark. But they played the crime parts true to crime. They played the horror parts straight up horror in that movie, right? So
it felt like such a departure from the first one. Like they feel so like almost like they're not even sequels to each other.
Yeah.
I could appreciate what Rob Zombie does for.
I like Zombie.
Yeah. I think I really like him. I think his films are hit or miss, but the ones that are hit are really good. I think Lords of Salem is fantastic.
That's one I still need to watch.
And that's one of those movies that I think doesn't get enough credit because it's got Rob Zombie's name on it, like almost to his disservice. I think if it wasn't Rob Zombie, like it would be like an A24 regarding.
Yeah, right. But I mean, they're hit and miss too. I'm not a fan of everything they've done. I mean,
I haven't seen everything they've done.
No, I'm Hereditary. Is that their big one people talk about? I remember when it came out. It was what was it?
The Witch also.
The Witch was
I couldn't get through the Witch. I
loved it.
I couldn't understand anything they were saying.
Yeah, I'll say that.
Yeah, and then Hereditary was. I remember it was almost marketed as like the next Exorcist or something like that, and I was with it until the end. The end was just dumb to me, and I'm probably in the minority saying that too. But it was just dumb, the whole ending. So. Yeah. A24, if you're listening, I apologize. But just,
They're in our sponsorship, Jay.
I know. Sorry. Yeah.
You said The Shining a minute ago. I feel like there was a little bit of The Shining in Beast of the Caliber Lodge with the lodge itself.
For sure.
Went through a little bit.
Yeah. There's no supernatural stuff or anything. in Beasts of the Caliber Lodge, but for sure, like setting wise, I mean, it's in a snowy lodge in Alaska. Very ritzy lodge. High end, elite. So I think that comparison for sure. All the different rooms, there's a lot of moving about. Like it was a great, really enjoyable setting to write. And just developing all that and all the characters that work there, all the characters in that visit the lodge, and then obviously everything that happens outside of the lodge. So
yeah. So I saw in the. Go ahead.
Oh, I was just going to ask. So is the premise of it hunting Nazis then?
I guess the premise of it is hunting. In
Just
general,
hunting overall. Okay.
So yeah, so like to give you kind of basic plot element is this. So it takes place in the 60s. And so first couple chapters of the book take place in sorry, my dog's like itching. First couple chapters of the book take place in 1960, and it kind of focuses on the idea that Nazis after the war escaped through rat lines from Europe and wound up in South America.
Okay.
And a big percentage of them in Argentina. And so the book opens up with this pair of Nazi hunters who we later find out there's more than just two, but it centers on these two. And they're hunting for this very specific Nazi in South America. And it's basically like straight up, suspense, cloak and dagger type, like right in the middle of a mission. And spoiler alert, I guess not too bad, but like
not too much because I haven't gotten to it yet. So not too much.
All right, so their mission failed. The mission fails, right? But this is basically the prologue, and so we jump forward to 1965, and they think they picked up the tail of this Nazi again. And this Nazi, I won't get into all the details, but he's a really prime target because of what he can offer to find other Nazis. So they think that he might be attending this super elite hunting lodge in Alaska. And they decide they need to, get into this lodge and identify whether it's him or not. And basically the main character of this book, Jimmy Knotts, his job in this Nazi hunting party is to make sure he identifies the targets accurately. And so he's got to get in there, make sure it's the guy they're looking for before the rest of the team does what they need to do to capture him and bring him in. Problem is they don't know what the guy looks like. They just have, testimonies from other people, vague idea. And so he's got to get there, and seeing this guy isn't enough. He's got to, accurately prove that it's him through various means.
Right.
When he gets to the lodge, though, he finds out that it's not just any normal hunting lodge or even any normal elite hunting lodge. They're hunting something very specific, and all these people have paid high dollar and signed non-disclosure agreements and that sort of thing to be there. And come to find out what they're hunting are Bigfoot, and this group of Bigfoot live on this mountain that the lodge owns. And so it's like the most elite hunting excursion you can go on, right? So now he's got to identify this Nazi, hunt this Nazi down, and at the same time they're hunting Bigfoot. So it's a little bit of a roadblock for him.
So in a nutshell, are you saying that big game hunters are really Nazis? I'm kidding. I shouldn't say that. We can edit that part now.
You can say it. There's definitely some heavy allusions to that for sure. Yeah.
And not just hunting one Bigfoot, but big feet, multiple Bigfoots, Sasquatches.
Yeah.
Big feet.
Yeah, it's about
Big feet.
That's the proper way.
Yeah. It's plural Bigfoot, big feet.
Yeah. Sasquatches, Sasquatch, I don't know. So yeah. I mean, it's about how they're hunting it, right? And their reaction to hunting it. There's for sure some social commentary there about big game hunting. Yeah.
Well, what kind of for the Nazi part, what kind of research did you do much for this, or just make it up as you went along? I mean,
I did a ton.
Okay.
So I'm
trying to be accurate with what they were representing and all that.
For sure, yeah. I mean, like,
okay.
I'm a big World War II buff in general, but
okay,
me too.
Just everything that happened after the war is crazy, right? And like,
right.
There's the whole Operation Paperclip thing, where the U.S., took in a bunch of Nazi scientists, for NASA. The Russians pretty much did the same thing except against their will. And everyone just kind of pretended it didn't happen for a really long time. And then there's the whole thing about South America too. I mean, there, even before the war ended, there's a bunch of towns in Argentina and other South American countries that served traditional German and Bavarian cuisine. Like they taught Nazi propaganda. Like, they had it all set up. And even
They had the schools for children there too, for the Nazis and everything.
Yeah, and even some of the structures that they found there after the war were like almost identical to some of the structures that Hitler and some of the other high-ranking Nazi officers, like what their homes and stuff looked like.
Right.
Yeah, I was excited when not a spoiler because it's at the beginning of the book. They went to the Analco house. I was like, I know what that is. Like that's a real place.
Yeah,
so I was like, I wonder. It was cool that you didn't just make everything up. Like you were using real bits of history and everything for the story.
Yeah, I did. I did as much research as I could, not just about that, but like, in 1960, or not 1960. And so the book kind of jumps back and forth and kind of tells the backstories of a lot of the characters, how the when the lodge was built. And in the chapters before the lodge has been finished being constructed, and like the owners are out kind of scouting the area of where to build this. Alaska wasn't even a state at that time, and so it was like a territory. And so I had to make sure, I wanted to make sure everything was as accurate as possible, so that when you throw in the Bigfoot Sasquatch element, like it seems, I guess, as grounded as you can get it.
Right.
Yeah.
Did you already set out for it to be a two-parter? I mean, is Primal Reserve like a continuation of it, or is that just a totally different story with same characters?
Yeah, so no, I didn't set out for it to be a two-parter, but when I got done writing Beasts, I just had so much fun with those characters and wanted it to continue. I started working on Primal Reserve, and like I know some people who've read Primal Reserve before reading Beasts, and I wrote it in a way where if you read Beasts first, you can get maybe a little bit more out of it, maybe some illusions. But I also wrote Primal Reserve in a way that if you didn't read Beast, like you're not gonna be missing anything. So I kind of looked at it like like an Indiana Jones type adventure in that respect, right? You can see Indiana Jones in The Last Crusade without seeing Raiders and still be okay, right? But if you've seen Raiders, maybe you get a little more out of it.
Right.
And you're writing book 3 right now, right? Blood Opus?
Yeah, I'm writing Blood Opus, and Blood Opus is like a direct sequel to Primal Reserve.
Also, so the series is not over with. I was thinking the series was it.
I'm writing book 3 right now. Yeah.
Okay.
So without giving too much away, you feel like this is going to be something just ongoing, or are you going to stop with book 3, or you don't know yet?
I don't know. Someone asked me that the other day. I don't know. We'll see. I'm definitely not going to write if I write a book 4, I'm not going to write. That won't be the next thing I work on. So I have another novella that I finished earlier this year that I'm going to release that's unrelated to the espionage horror stuff. I'll release that maybe around the summer or something like that.
Is it just regular horror, or
yeah,
what is it?
Just regular horror.
Just regular horror. I don't know if that exists, but
yeah. Because I could totally see this being like a serialized series, just ongoing, like a James Bond or Indiana Jones, just having these adventures every year. Because it's like 64 and then 65 or 65 and 66 the years.
Yeah, exactly.
I can see one taking place like every other year. So I think that'd be cool.
Yeah, and that's how
Jimmy Knots can never die. That's what
right.
Is.
I know the last one I'll do it'll be called Old Man Jimmy, right? Like
there you go, Old Man Logan.
Yeah. But I mean, that's how Ian Fleming wrote the Bond books, right? Like he put one out basically every year, and like that's a cool idea. I just don't want to unless it's going to be just as good or better than the one that I wrote before it. I'm not going to do it. So I'm super critical of like films and stuff in particular. It's like, why'd you make the sequel if it wasn't going to be at least just as good, right? Doesn't have to be better. It's just as good. Like, why bother?
Right.
So can you tease Blood Opus at all? Like, book 1 has. Can you tease Blood Opus at all? Like, book 1 has Sasquatch. Book 2 has like sort of
not yet.
Not yet. Okay.
Not yet.
In due time, Brad. In due time.
When I do that, when I reveal the cover,
okay,
it'll be very apparent what it is.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
So how does the Primal Reserve differ from the first one? It's more of a
Yes.
continuation, but what I mean, just in a nutshell, no spoilers.
So
what's the
it's
premise for it?
yeah. So Primal Reserve still about obviously this group of Nazi hunters, and the setting is completely different. So this setting takes place primarily on the Amazon River, and so the Nazi hunter has to board this riverboat to have this riverboat crew taken down the river to a wine vineyard in the middle of the Amazon, where this Nazi's kind of operating out of. But the riverboat crew has an agenda of their own, and they're hunting something very specific or researching something very specific. And it's basically like an amphibian creature that's rumored to exist by the locals there. Yeah, there he is. Very creature from the Black Lagoon inspired.
Yeah. I like that you've been using like more classic creatures instead of like a ghost or something like that, but like very specific, like kind of old school monsters, Bigfoot, creature from the Black Lagoon kind of thing.
Yeah. And it really like Primal Reserve like came out of I had the idea for a while, minus the espionage stuff. It really came out of like, man, like I would love to see a more updated, like more brutal, more intense take on Creature from the Black Lagoon, because it's one of my favorite characters. And so it came out of a desire to see that. And I guess most of what I write, or all of what I write, comes from me wanting something to read or watch and it not existing. So I'm like, all right, well, I'll just do it myself then.
Yeah, because I mean, you don't see, as far as movies go, like horror movies, you don't see many creature features anymore. I mean, you do, but it's some sort of lab created thing. You don't see like a new Bigfoot movie or a new Loch Ness monster movie. Like some of the classics. So yeah, I can see definitely wanting to put that in books to kind of reminisce if you watched those when you were a kid. That was like the beginning of a lot of people's introduction to horror, those kind of Loch Ness monster or Bigfoot or whatever like that. So that's pretty cool.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, and to do it in like, I write these books in a very like pulpy way, right? And like even with the covers, that was when I was working with the my cover artist. Like that's what I was telling him. Like just think like 60s pulp, right?
Uh-huh. It's a good vibe setter because that's what I get. That's the feel I get from it.
Yeah, for sure.
Who does the covers for you? Same person for both, or?
Yeah, so the original cover, the copy that Brad has, was done by a buddy of mine named Luke Newman, who's an artist, fantastic, very talented. And then I had another artist work, and because I wanted a more pulpy style for Primal Reserve, and so I found this guy, Johnny Wise is his name. He's in the UK, in Bristol, I think.
Okay.
And I just loved his style. I came across him on social media and reached out to him. And then after he did the Primal Reserve cover, I was like, man, I got to get him to do Beast just so like it matches, so that it's very clear that it's like the same series, like even without knowing it has the, the same style. But he's fantastic. He was, did exactly, delivered on exactly what I was looking for. He was fast. He was awesome. Yeah.
I'm assuming he's going to do Blood Opus too, the cover for that.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
Nice. Yeah,
well, he didn't know you
on the shelf.
He watches this now. So.
Well, he knew. I reached out to him. I was like, hey, here's your schedule. I'm going to need you around June, July or something. So
you said in the back of Beast that you originally wanted to do it as a screenplay and film it as a movie, but you didn't think you could do the budget.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So before I wrote Beast, like the majority of the writing I had been doing for the previous and I don't know, I don't want to date myself, but for many years since I was in high school, really was screenwriting. And just film's my passion. And I had written, I've probably written 30 plus scripts. And Beast was one of them. And Beast was a big departure from the other scripts I had written because of kind of the scope of it. And most of the stuff I wrote with the intent that, hey man, if I can get, a small budget, then I can, get a crew and I can shoot this like super like real indie But Beast was the exact opposite. I knew, like, yeah, the more I wrote it, like, I'm never going to be able to afford this without some giant studio backing it. And a buddy of mine, who's also an author, he was like, you should just write it as a novel. And I was like, I don't know. Like, I'm doing the screenwriting thing. Is like, yeah, but like, you're trying to condense this really large story with all these characters and all this, great action and everything into a 90-page script, right? Like,
Right.
you're not letting yourself explore that, that world enough. And I thought about it for a couple of years, and then I was like, you know what? I'm just going to try it. And it was super rewarding because you're not worried about any constraints, right? You're worried about, is this, special effect going to be too expensive? Is this too many characters? Is the too many locations? Like, you're just writing, whatever's coming to your mind, right? Whatever you want.
Right.
So it was a completely different experience than screenwriting, for sure.
But as far as the scripts go, though, I mean, again, if you're just writing the script part, it's someone else that's making the movie. You kind of have to let them, worry about the budget or worry about the special effects and all of that stuff. Unless you're doing it, you're like every single part of it yourself. I mean, did you ever?
Sure. I mean, if I had the connections, or if someone was like, "Yeah, I'll buy that script and I'll produce it," I'd be like, sign it off. Right? But you got to know the right people and that sort of thing. The novella I'm going to release later this year, that's just the regular horror.
Yeah.
That's the closest I've gotten to having like a studio produce one of my scripts, and it got through. I signed a temporary option for it to see if they can get everything together within a certain period of time. They were talking to some legitimate actors, and it all looked to be going good, and just kind of fell apart on their end in the long run, which was unfortunate. But who knows? Maybe someone picks up one of these espionage horror books and says, "Hey, I'll give you X amount and we'll produce it for you."
Yeah,
there you go. Was it a big, like, I don't want to say learning curve because you know what you're doing, but was it a big difference between writing a script and then writing a full, buffed out novel like that?
Yeah, for sure. For sure. I mean, like, when you're writing in screenplay format, it's just like the skeleton, right? It's not. I mean, maybe some people would disagree with this, but it's not really literature, right? Like, it's just like blueprint for what's going to become a movie. Not that it isn't a skill or doesn't require skill, but it's completely different. It's like the first step in a process. And like, when you're writing a script, like, you're leaving out tons of information because you're relying on actors and a director and everything, set designers and everything to really bring that to fruition. So it's really just the bare bones.
You lose control, I think, don't you? Or
I think you just know going in that it's not something you are gonna have control over unless you're the one directing it as well or something, right? But I mean, that's why that's one of the reasons film is so cool, right? Because it's like the ultimate collaborative art, right? It's taking music, sometimes animation, photography, everything like all together, right? And you just get hopefully the idea is you get the best of the best, right? And everyone brings their talents and creates something together. So, and that's great if you can pull it all together.
So did you feel like yourself like, oh, I can add all this extra stuff now, all these backstories and characters and
exactly
all this stuff?
Yeah. Like the script like didn't have any of the backstory stuff. It was basically everything that happens present tense in the story, like at the lodge. But you didn't really, I mean, there was, dialogue or, stuff that kind of like alludes to some of the backstories, but like in the book, it's like full fledged, right? And so you get whole chapters of just this character or this character.
Like the backstories you wrote into the book, did you have any idea of their backstories when you were just doing the screenplay, or was that stuff you didn't even think about?
No, for sure. Like when I was doing screenwriting, like I always had like, pages of notes on who all these characters are, right? Because like I said, other than Beast, and I did the same with Beast, but other than Beast, like I always intended like, hey, this is a film that I'm going to shoot. And so those would have been my notes that I would share with the actors on their character or whatever the case may be. So,
okay.
Yeah. Well, I know some writers, even when they're writing just their novels and novellas, they write it as if it is a script, as it is a movie in their head, and they're just make it, but they're doing everything. They're putting the emotions and the actions and all that stuff too, and making it a mini movie in their head. But yeah, I've written scripts before too that nobody's ever going to see, and they're like very bare bones and just, hopefully the director and producers and all of them, they can figure out the emotions within. I can put suggestions,
Right.
so and so was sad, but it's up to the actor to really bring it home. So.
For sure.
Did you turn Primal Reserve into a script, or is it only novel format?
No, I started it in novel format, so that's the only format that one exists in. Unless there's some studio listening, then yeah, I've already written the script. I'll have
it's right here. Let me grab it for you.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, we just got a hit. Yeah. So.
So since it was a script first, did you have like ideas of what actors you wanted to play the certain characters and stuff?
Yeah, I think, and like it's weird. Like when I think about the characters in my stories and stuff like that, like it's like I'm thinking about it like with no time constraints, and so like maybe I'm watching a movie from like the 80s and like, oh, that's that character right there, and that he's in his 30s, right? But then like, all right, well now like how old is he now, right? And he's 60 or whatever. It's not going to work. But so you're like, this character in his 30s, that character when he was 45, whatever the case may be. So, yeah.
So like I told you earlier, influences, it feels like James Bond and Indiana Jones, and even some like, I'm gonna blank on her name. What's the mystery writer? What's her name? She wrote like 100 books.
Yeah, Agatha Christie.
Yeah, feels like the Nile Riverboat one, and that kind of stuff too.
For
sort
sure.
of mystery mixed in.
Yeah, for sure. And like that's another great example of like how like she had the characters that she wrote a dozen books or whatever for Poirot and Marple and stuff like that or whatever. And as far as I know, right, there's not a lot of structure on which ones you need to read first because they're all different mystery, right? And so these are all different. So yeah, Agatha Christie for sure, like that whole a group of people in a secluded house type of feel definitely was an inspiration on Beast of the Caliber Lodge. Yeah,
like there's some vibe from her books that I feel like you captured in this as well. I can't put my finger on what it is, but there's something about it that feels very similar to her stuff.
Nice.
How many things have you changed? Like if you're going, like when you went into Beast and when you went into Primal Reserve, did they turn out the way you wanted them, or was there any like major change in the middle where you're like, okay, this isn't going to work, I need to restructure something?
Yeah, not with Beast. Like since I'd already kind of really like worked that out as a screenplay ahead of time, like that one was pretty straightforward. With Primal Reserve, yeah, I mean like probably. Because I like plot everything out because there's a lot of characters, and with it being like the espionage thing, like it's all gonna make sense. And in order for me to tie like the creature feature and the grounded stuff all together, like I feel like I have to make all these loose ends tie, be able to tie them all up and explain them. So with that one, there was, and like kind of figuring out like, hey, how do I tie in this amphibian monster feature in the best way, and then make it relevant to the other characters and not just have it be like just some random thing that they stumble upon,
right.
But have it make sense and be relevant to the plot. And then with the one I'm working on now with the third book with Blood Opus, since it takes place like directly after Primal Reserve, like I pretty much had to plot that whole book out before I was finished or published Primal Reserve in case there was anything I came across that was like, wait a minute, that's not going to work because book. So that one I had to wait and like really make sure I was good with my plot and I was happy with it before I hit that publish button on Primal.
Does that affect the ending much, or is that more of just part of the setup in the middle part?
I mean, it directly affects the ending of Primal Reserve. Yeah, I mean, Primal Reserve, like I don't mind saying it, but it ends on a pretty major cliffhanger.
Nice.
Yeah, so I mean, Beast, like I said, just wraps itself up, and you could never read another one. You'd just be just fine. But if you read Primal Reserve, my hope is that as soon as you're done with it, like you're needing to pick up that next book. So,
See, now I need you to tell me what's going on with Blood Opus.
He said not
Well,
yet.
I know he did.
I'm hoping by the end of the year I put it out, so we'll see.
Okay, so sometime this year, hopefully.
Yeah, hopefully near the end of the year. Like I
See,
said,
I got time to get the other 2 books in. See,
yeah, a little bit of time. Yeah, and then when you're ready to read like just the regular horror one,
the regular horror. Yeah,
that'll be around summertime.
that's just
So what is that?
like a decoy. That's just
That's
like-
just filler. It's
to
filler.
clean your brain out a little bit. It's a palate cleanser. So,
It's the intermission between the second and third book. Yeah.
right.
So did you write your novella between these 2, or did you write these 2 first and then the novella?
I wrote the novella after Primal Reserve, but it was based on another screenplay of mine, the one that almost ended up coming to fruition.
Mhm.
And that one I knocked out faster than I've written anything. I had written or read We Need to Do Something by Max Booth last year, and like just the way he wrote that, it was the first thing I'd read of his, and it just being in present tense and like first person, and something about how he wrote it just like, like lit a fire under me, and I was like, that's how I do this, because I've been sitting on the script since 2016 is back when it almost got made. And I had gotten into a bunch of competitions. It placed really highly, but then I was like, all right, well, what am I going to do with it at this point? And then I read Max's book, and I was like, all right, that's how I do it. Is I tell it in a very fast, snappy way where it feels like a 90-minute movie, right?
And I'm a sucker for those. I'm a sucker for like first person.
Yeah.
I don't care if it's present tense or past tense, but if it's first person, I'm a sucker for those. Really.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, it's cool to tell it, and like it. I think it gives it a more distinct voice, so like it doesn't feel like it's part of the espionage horror series or anything like that, So yeah, I'm excited about it. We'll see.
So are you going to self-publish that one, or are you trying to put it with a publisher somewhere?
I think I'll self-publish it. Yeah, I mean, like I've been, not that like if someone offered me an option to go with them, I would turn it down.
Whoever's watching this right now, that's
not
a thought.
Anyone wants to offer me something, But
I do know a few that have openings coming up. Just FYI, if you want to talk behind scenes.
All right, maybe we will. But yeah, I mean, like if that doesn't work out, like I'm happy to self-publish it. I've enjoyed the self-publishing thing, and it's been a little more successful than I thought it would be. So yeah, I don't mind doing it again.
I know it's regular horror, but can you tease at all what kind of horror it is? Like just some generic, like ghost story, haunted house, anything like that? I know you don't want to give too much away.
I mean, it's really hard to say. It's like family horror, I guess. It's very, very grounded, very not too distant future, like could happen tomorrow type, just very, very like, small cast. Yeah, it's
regular everyday horror.
Regular everyday horror, yeah.
That's actually a new genre, because I didn't exist until this show.
Regular horror and regular everyday horror.
So now you've coined a term as well, Jay. So I did the espionage horror, you got regular horror. It's good.
There we go.
So I'll be writing in your genre.
So that's two I have. I have regular horror and I have space erotica. So
space erotica. So did it feel different writing the novella than it did the espionage stuff, or did it kind of just all flow the same?
No, it felt completely different. Like I wrote it crazy quick. I guess, like I said, I'd already written the screenplay, so it's not like I just came up with the idea also like super quick. But no, it went really fast, and like the flow is completely different. And I don't know, I think it was just something about writing it, in first person and stuff like that it just made it feel more, I don't know, I guess more organic. And like I wasn't writing it like a narrator, I was writing it like the character, and so it's more conversational, I guess, right? Is a way to put it. So yeah, it was a completely different experience.
I think that's always interesting when authors talk about writing certain things. Some things they can just bust out really quick, and others takes them forever. Like Laurel Hightower, she said Whispers in the Dark took her like 7 years to write or something crazy, and then Below she wrote it in like 3 weeks.
Right. Just
the drastic difference in time writing something, because I guess it all depends on what the story is. And like I said, yours felt really quick because it's first person, all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, and I think there's not a lot of downtime in the novella that I wrote. Like it's just one thing happens after another. It's just like a spiral kind of. I mean, one of like a good way to compare it, I guess, is like you ever see that movie Don't Breathe?
Yeah.
Where they break into the house and
he's blind,
woman?
right?
He's blind, and so
okay, yeah.
Yeah, but he's a total badass, right? So they're not expecting that, and then things go completely the opposite way. But like as soon as they break into the house in that movie, like it does not let up until the end. It's just like one thing after another, right? All right, the guy has a gun. All right, now the dog's after him. All right, now they fall through the roof. All right, now they're in the basement. Like it's just like one incident leads right into the next, and the next is 10 times worse than the last. And so like that's kind of how it is in my novella, is like it just keeps escalating. I almost wrote it in that manner where like I couldn't stop writing it because it was getting faster and faster.
Well, that's cool because I like to be exhausted at the end of those novellas.
Well, there you go. You will be.
Okay. Is the novella the shortest thing or have you done any kind of short stories? Do you ever submit anything to any open calls for short stories? Because they're floating around all the time too. So
yeah, no, I haven't. I think short stories are way more difficult to write than novels. In my opinion, like to be able to tell a story and get your readers to bond with your character or care about the plot. Like, I mean, you can do it over 70,000 words, but to do it much more succinct amount of pages, like it's tough.
Yeah, you can have like a downtime every now and then too in a novel to set up other stuff. But a lot of times when you see these calls for short stories, they have a word max on it, and you're like, shoot,
it's like 5,000 words,
4,000, 5,000, 7,000. So
yeah, I applaud anyone who does that. Like it's definitely a skill to be able to tell.
I have a few rejections. I have a couple. I'm letting them pile up and then create my own short story collection that way. So. Yeah, I got a couple rejections. We can talk behind stage.
Is that something you have any interest in? Is maybe pursuing any short stories at all, or you think you're going to stick to the longer stuff?
Yeah, not anytime soon. I think I'll stick to. I would have said 6 months ago that I'm just sticking to novels, but like after writing the novella, like it was a lot of fun, and it was quick and like. So I'll probably do a few more of those. So I'm not swearing off short stories. I'm just saying that they're a lot tougher, in my opinion, than writing a novel.
Yeah, so. And everyone seems to love the novella. Like they're so popular in the indie horror space.
Yeah. Well, and for a reader, right? Like you can knock out, 5 times as many.
That's right.
I read one yesterday just in one sitting, and I don't normally do that with my wandering brain. But yeah, it was like 100-page novella. I got done in hour and a half in just one sitting. It just flew by. So
yeah. And I think I don't know if you had said it, Jay, or if one of the other guests like in the past couple of months had said it, but like they really feel like watching a horror film, right? Like a 90-minute movie, and it's great. And so like you would watch that movie in one sitting, and so to be able to like knock through someone's story like that, and
I've said that a lot. That's why I didn't say it this time just now because I've said it in every episode. So.
Like I do enjoy the longer horror movies, but I do feel like about 90 minutes or so is like perfect length for a horror film for the most part.
Yeah, I think like it depends on like the storyline, right? Like like how big is the tale you're telling, right? Like there's no way I could do Beasts of the Caliber Lodge or Primal Reserve as a novella, right?
Right.
Like, it would be the equivalent of, like I said, writing it in the script and then you have to leave a bunch out. But there's something
you'd have like history buffs like down your throat. Why'd you leave this out about the Nazis? Blah, blah, blah,
this. They didn't have that type of clothing at that point, right?
Right.
I mean, I was looking up what type of shoes people had, what years certain wristwatches and pocket watches came out, like the cars and everything. Yeah, so yeah.
But in saying that though, I do enjoy like it's like 1,000 pages. I really like it. It just like you said depends on what the story is. Is it 100 pages like Crossroads, or is it 1,000 pages like it? Either one can work for me. It just depends on the story.
I just got Ghoul in the Cape by Mallerman in the
That's
mail.
a thick one too, isn't it?
Oh my God, it's huge. Yeah. So like it's gonna take me a while to set everything else aside. So I'll try and knock out as many novellas on my TBR before then.
Or you just be like me. I'm probably in the middle of 13 different books right now. I don't know how I do it. I don't know why I do it, but
He's not a psychopath like you are, Jay.
I mean, I don't do 13, but like I'm generally reading a couple things at once, and I think the reason is because like for me, and it's the same way I watch movies. Like it's whatever mood you're in, right? It's the tone that you're looking for, and
that's
like,
why I don't finish all those right away too, because I'll get like halfway and I'm like, okay, I need to clear my. That's why I did that 100-page novella yesterday. It was kind of a little breath of fresh air because the other 10 or 13 I'm in, they were pretty deep. So I'm like, I need something to kind of clear it out real quick, and that's how it happened. So
for sure, yeah.
Yeah, I make those TBR videos and I never stick to them.
Right.
At the beginning of the month, it's like, this is what I'm going to read. And like 2 days later, it's like, I want to read that book instead.
Right. Yeah, you could probably go, like, if you look on my Instagram, like, I don't know, every 4 or 5 months I'll post like, hey, here's the top of my TBR stack. And I bet it's the same picture, just like
yeah,
just different order.
Yeah. We'll do like 6 videos in a row and have like 2 the same in each one.
Just like, the same 6 books, yeah.
I feel like, I've been talking about the same books for like 3 months in a row.
Yeah, and then I mean, like everyone has like their favorite authors, right? Where as soon as their new one comes out, it kind of bumps everyone else down. And so, I mean, you're excited to read it, but then you kind of feel bad for everyone that you bump down. But
I do feel bad.
Like when Laurel Hightowers came out, when I got the arc, you did too, Brad, right? Like I read it right away.
I haven't read it yet.
What's wrong with you?
Because I just got it in the mail today. I told you.
You got the e-arc too, didn't you?
No, I didn't get that.
Oh, I must be special.
I wasn't as cool as you.
No, I mean, I read that the day I got it. I had to because I'm in it. So
yeah, mine's David Sodergren. Anytime Sodergren puts out a new book, like everything else goes on hold. So.
I have like 3 or 4 of his, and I just need to get to them. I read a short story that he had in the was it Hexperiments? But like I didn't know he was so brutal and so graphic. I actually messaged Ross Jeffrey that I was like, I didn't know he was so violent and graphic. He's like, you got to check him out. So
it's gotten like each book he puts out, it's like gotten progressively more and more.
Yeah,
I like that he posts the pictures with his dog. The dog's always sticking out and everything.
Mm-hmm.
I know I gotta have at least 2 of his. I gotta check my Kindle, which I have like 300 unread books on there right now. They pile up quick, but still.
Yeah, fit one of his in for sure. I mean, my recommendation is Maggie's Grave. Like, I think that's my favorite of.
I have it.
Yeah,
I have it. So,
what's it? Is it The Forgotten Island? Is that his popular one?
Something like that one too. I think I should have brought it down with me. But
yeah, and Dead Girl Blues, his Giallo homage is awesome. Yeah.
So before you put out your books, were you in sort of the indie horror scene, like reading like stuff like David Sodergren and everybody like that, or did you sort of discover everybody once you did your books?
So my best friend is Cameron Rubik, and he's a writer as well. So he writes kind of like 80s slasher.
I've got some of his books.
Yeah,
I read his the Roller Wink one, whatever it's called. I can't remember. Disco Death Trap. That was fun.
Yeah, that's my favorite of his. So I mean, he's been writing for years. I think he put his first book, Kill River, out. Ooh, I don't know. He's gonna hate me for not knowing. It actually probably won't give a shit. But like, probably like 5-6 years ago or something like that. So I started getting into it, I guess, around that time. Like, just very slowly. And then I guess, reading more and delving more into like the indie horror scene for like, I guess the year I was writing Beast of the Caliber Lodge, so like a year prior, starting to, just started with his suggestions and who he likes to read, and then, just going down a rabbit hole from there and picking up books from other authors that I had met on, social media and stuff like that, or had been recommended or whatever. So, and now that's pretty much like all I read.
Oh.
Like,
right.
Yeah, it takes up all my time now.
Like, I don't see you on Twitter a lot, though. Do you do mostly Instagram and Twitter, or because I don't see you a lot on Twitter unless you're just buried with everything else I see. So
maybe you don't follow me, Jay. I don't know.
Oh, I do.
Dang,
I do. We were just talking actually backstage, so I'm trying to clear it out so I can see people more. I have so much happening in that. I need to.
Yeah, I don't know. I post a handful of times a week, I guess.
Okay.
Twitter's a cesspool.
Yeah. Like somehow I've been able to like dodge most of all the drama. I'm always the person who's like coming in and like seeing someone's like, random tweet about some event that happened,
Yeah.
and it's like,
Yeah.
I'm glad I don't know what it's.
And then you go down the rabbit hole and you've wasted 35 minutes of your time.
What was this? Yeah, exactly.
Exactly.
And then once you find out the answer, like, I wish I didn't even know.
Yeah, it wasn't worth the trouble.
Mm-hmm.
I was sort of like you. I didn't know indie horror existed, and then Nikki, because I think you've been on her channel before, Dark Between Pages.
Right.
Yeah.
She introduced me to Cameron Chaney. I read his, and then it was just falling down the rabbit hole after that. This whole other world existed that it's not just Stephen King and Kuntz and Anne Rice and stuff.
Yeah, it's cool, and like like obviously there's a lot of negativity like out there in the social media world, but like that whole community, like in general, I feel is really supportive. And someone asked me like, how do you do your book sales, or how do you sell your books? Hey, the majority of it comes from other readers and other authors and stuff like that, like posting about it, right? Like
a lot of them do promote other people. So.
Yeah, it's super cool. I mean, like you mentioned Ross Jeffrey, like he's been a big advocate. He blurred Primal Reserve. Brian Bauer, like I said, Sodergren. So like the community is great, and like even like the shows like with you guys, or Well Read Beer, and Nikki and stuff like that, like all that little bit helps for sure, and has like way more reach than the posts that I do that Jay doesn't even see. So
well, no, like if I get on it, if I get on like noon, there's already like 12 hours of people posting stuff, and
it's all right.
I can't figure it out. I'm like, well, where's the new stuff?
You can rag on Jay. It's perfectly okay.
I'm fine with it.
And honestly, though, like the indie stuff, like, don't get me wrong, I love Stephen King. He's probably my favorite author. But the indie stuff, I would say 99% of it is better than what you'd go buy on, the bestseller list at the big box store and stuff. I think, anyway.
Yeah, I mean, or just as good at least, and like I hope that like a lot of the people that are in the indie world are able to branch out. I know like some people have been able to, Stephen Grant Jones, like that, but I'm hopeful that a lot more people will, because I'm reading their stuff and it's like, I'm not like, when I say like all I read now is like the indie self-pub world. It's not because I'm like, I'm only my thing and I'm only going to support those people. It's because
not like you're a hipster or nothing.
It's because like 9 times out of 10 or more than that, like I read it and I enjoy it and I like the book, right? And it makes me want to pick up the next book
it only takes one to discover one more, and it just snowballs, and you discover 2 more from that and 3 more from that, and you make a connection. Yeah.
Like not everybody, but like all the big 5 stuff feels very cookie cutter most of the time. And with the indie stuff, there's, people aren't afraid to take risks and do their own thing that a normal publisher would be like, nah, we can't do that.
Yeah, exactly. Like I mentioned Brian Bauer, it's like, don't like, that's like pretty,
You're not going to see him with a big 5. We love Brian.
I don't know who the big 5 are. He always like, I don't even know.
Simon & Schuster and
I know.
People.
Yeah. And what, Harper, Penguin.
Yeah, I mean, they're all the same now. Like Penguin, they all own each other. It's all the same stuff.
Like the ones I know are Off Limits and Seminary Gates and Cemetery Gates and Crystal Lake and D&T. The ones I deal with directly. So,
but I like it because people aren't afraid to take a risk and do something different than what you'd see. Like James Patterson writes the same book every single time. It feels like.
Yeah.
Not to rag on James Patterson, but you know what I'm saying.
we can do that next hour. Let's just go ahead and rag on him.
And like yours are different. Like there's nothing I've read before that mixes like kind of this spy undercover mystery with, a cryptid in there.
Yeah.
I mean, there's more control to it, I think, too, because you have more of the control. If you're one of those big publishers, they're going to be like, this part's not going to work. Let's change it around, and you're like,
is there enough mass appeal, right? Yeah.
Yeah. But if you're self-pub, or even if you're one of the smaller independent publishers, leave it in there.
Yeah,
that's with go ahead, LJ.
I was just gonna say, I was having a conversation the other day. Like, it's basically like the indie film boom of the '90s, right? When people were making whatever movies they wanted to make because all of a sudden it was the first time that it was affordable, and these filmmakers didn't care about getting studio contracts. That wasn't their priority. Their priority was making the film that they wanted to make, regardless of how crazy or violent or whatever it was.
Yeah.
And that's what got them noticed, right? And so, like, that's kind of what this time reminds me of, or at least my experience in reading a lot of these Indian self-pub books is it's that, like, devil may care. Like, I'm going to write what I want to write, like, and if you read it, you read it, and if you don't, okay, I guess it wasn't for you, right? But like, I think there's an audience for almost everything. They're all different size audiences, but I think that there's like, if you like it, odds are at least one other person likes it, right? And like,
yeah.
So.
Did you read a lot when you were younger?
Yeah, I mean, a little bit, but like really like through after high school and like early adulthood and stuff like that, like it's been film. Like I said, it's my passion. And really, like, when you read my books and when people ask me about like inspirations, like, most of them are films. Like, I'm not saying that, like, I'm not inspired by any books or any writers or anything like that, but like the majority of them and the biggest influences of mine are films and filmmakers.
Right.
So,
and like everything I've said that what this feels like, it's all been film stuff.
Yeah.
James Bond, Indiana Jones.
Yeah.
Speaking of which, you want to get the game in here?
Yeah,
we're at about an hour mark. Let's do a game. Let's break it up.
Play some movie. Since he's a big movie buff, we're gonna do some movie trivia.
All right.
A little bit of Indiana Jones and a little bit of James Bond mixed together.
Cool. And I didn't even see these.
Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off.
You just totally cut me off.
Just cut you off, Jay.
Nice. I'm going to walk out. I didn't see these questions, so
we'll do. So I'll ask LJ first, and if LJ, if you can't get it, we'll give Jay a chance, see if he can get it. All right. So number one, what was Ian Fleming's job during World War II?
Oh man, like, I know he was in the military. I think he was in the British Navy.
Yeah. So he was a commander of naval intelligence.
There you go.
So next up, what does the Ark of the Covenant contain?
The Ark of the Covenant contains the holy texts.
The Ten Commandments. Yeah.
There you go. Bunch of face melting ghosts is what it contains.
Yeah, that's right. It just melts off. That scene terrified me as a kid. I was like, I can't do this. That, and then Temple of Doom, when they rips the heart out, I was like, I got to turn this off. I was like 4 when I watched it. It scared me to death. All right, so what, and you'll know this one because this was in the book. What does Bond named his martini in Casino Royale?
The Vesper Martini.
The Vesper Martini. I did catch the Bond and the Ian Fleming, Easter egg, I guess you call it, in there. I thought that was cool.
Nice. Yeah, it was cool because, like, right there reading the in the 60s, it would have been like the time when the books would have been like at the height of their popularity. So,
yeah. Have you read all those?
I've read a handful of them. I haven't read all of them. Probably half of the Ian Fleming original ones. Yeah.
I read one. I don't remember which one it was. It's the one where they go to New Orleans, I think, which is one of my least favorite movies.
Yeah, Live and Let Die. Yeah.
Yeah.
Mine too. Yeah. And it was my least
good song out of it, though.
I read. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, From Russia with Love is probably the best one. So,
all right. So for Indiana Jones, who was offered the role of Indiana Jones before Harrison Ford?
Oh man, I don't know. Question: Michael J. Fox.
Mm-mm. Jay, you can take a guess.
Sean Connery.
Nope. It was Tom Selleck.
Ah, yeah.
I cannot picture him as Indiana Jones, like the big mustache.
I was going to say, was the mustache going to be part of it, or yeah,
stuff like that always weirds me out. Like, so and so was in the lead for such and such part, and I can never picture them being it. Just Tom Selleck as Indiana Jones just seems so alien.
That's one of the cool scenes, I think, in Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, where they have the footage from The Great Escape. And like they've removed Steve McQueen and put DiCaprio's character in there as if he was gotten the role. I love that. That was pretty cool.
So here you go, Jay. This is a second ago. Who performed the theme for Live and Let Die?
The original
The original.
was all you want. LJ is
Go for it, Jay. Go for
Paul
it.
McCartney.
And who was with him? Do you know?
Paul McCartney Wings.
Wings, right?
There you go.
The
Jay
band
knows
that
his-
Paul McCartney wishes people talk more about, right?
Yeah, really.
Jay knows
I
his
was
music
in
stuff.
2 bands,
So what is the name of the nightclub in Temple of Doom?
Oh man, I have no idea.
I'll give you a hint. It's a Star Wars Easter egg.
What's Star Wars? I don't know what that is.
It's a Long Live Spock.
So
Gene Roddenberry creation. Yeah. I have no idea.
You take a stat. Jay doesn't know anything about Star Wars, so he have no idea.
I've seen them all. My wife and I watched like all 9 or 10 or 20 of them like 2 years ago
All 20
like-
of them.
during like Christmas break or something on Disney, and I couldn't tell you anything about them really.
It's a Club Obi-Wan.
Oh man, I had no idea. Interesting.
What is Q's first name from James Bond?
Do they say? I don't know.
I don't think they ever say it in a movie.
I
I
don't
don't know
know.
if they do or not.
I have no idea.
It does not start with a Q.
Hmm.
Take a guess, Jay. What's Q's first name? Look, he's Googling it. Look at him typing on the keyboard.
Steven.
You got a guess, Jay?
It doesn't even tell you online.
It's Algernon.
No, it doesn't even say that anywhere. I think you made that up.
Yeah, I'm curious if you made that up also. Yeah.
We'll look it up later.
I'm looking up Q's
What's
first
your
name.
source here? Wikipedia?
That was a James Bond trivia site.
Well, no, I'm just Googling it. I was looking up Q's first name, and it's like does not exist. Go away.
Go. All right. So for Indiana Jones, what famous scene in Raiders of the Lost Ark was cut short due to an actor's illness?
The whole the guy with the sword and
Yeah.
that's supposed to be the
Oh, really? That's cool.
they had planned out an entire stunt scene with Harrison Ford fighting that guy, but yeah, he was sick. He was really
I think
sick.
I think he had food poisoning or something.
Yeah, but they needed to get the scene done or whatever for the location or something like that, and so they didn't have any time. So he's like, "Why don't I just shoot him?" So
Yeah. That seems like a Harrison Ford thing that he would do too.
yeah,
I'm just gonna shoot him anyway.
Yeah.
And that scene's classic. I love that scene.
right. Happy accidents.
That's right. All right. So for Bond, how many kills does it take to be promoted to 00 status?
2 kills.
2 kills, correct.
Yeah.
Where did George Lucas get the name for Indiana?
I don't know. Is it his dog's name?
It was his dog's name.
Oh, all right.
Who was the second actor to portray James Bond in a feature film?
George Lazenby.
You only did
Yeah.
a couple, right? Or
He only
Only
did
did
one,
one.
and then they brought Connery back right afterwards.
yeah.
we got to recover this. But that's one of the. I think that's one of the better films, and like at this point, like it's regarded as one of the best of the films.
It's what is Her Majesty's Secret Service? Is that the one?
Yeah, he wasn't even an actor actually, Lazenby. I think he was like a model or something like that. Like that guy looks good. We'll put him in there. Can he act?
Was Connery just done at that point? Do you know?
I don't know. I don't know why he stopped doing it. I'm sure that they.
Probably a contract dispute.
Yeah. They're like,
Sean Connery.
please come back. We have to fix this.
Yeah.
I just have his voice in my head, just talking trash.
I have the Sean Connery version on Silent Live doing Jeopardy in my head every time I think of Sean Connery. What's his face? Daryl Hammond doing Sean Connery in Jeopardy.
All right, so this one's easy. What is Indiana Jones's worst fear?
Snakes.
Yeah.
Snakes.
Yeah.
What's his dad's worst fear in the third movie?
Oh, I don't know. I don't remember.
His ex-wife. I don't know.
What is it?
Rats.
The rats.
That's right.
I can't.
Never would have made it past the rats, I think.
Neither
That's
one.
right.
Uh,
What was the first James Bond movie?
Doctor No. Well, I guess the right answer is Doctor No, but I think they did like a parody Casino Royale TV movie before that.
Dr. No's first, yeah. But yeah, there was some weird Casino Royale because was it Broccoli or whatever the producer is? They didn't have anything to do with that one.
Yeah, I think Peter Sellers played James Bond in that. Yeah, so it's a comedy and stuff. Yeah, so it doesn't count.
So got two left. Last two questions.
All right.
What was Dr. Henry Jones Sr. looking for when he disappeared?
The Holy Grail.
Holy Grail. Final question.
I almost said his book, but no.
What kind of car does James Bond drive in the movie Moonraker?
Aston Martin something or other.
This one's a trick question.
Oh. He doesn't drive a car?
He does not
Space
drive
shuttle?
a car.
Really?
He does not drive. I think that's the only James Bond movie where he does not drive a car.
Wow.
So you've read some of the Ian Fleming books. How accurate are the movies compared to the books that you've read of?
I mean, like the adaptations, I guess, all kind of have their liberties, and like Moonraker is nothing like the Moonraker movie.
Okay.
It's like not even. It's just the only thing similar is the name.
I love Moonraker. That's one of my favorite Bond movies, and it's so just ridiculously cheesy, but I just love everything about it. I love Jaws and the stupid space laser and everything.
Yeah, it's crazy. Yeah, I mean, like I guess most of the books are, other than Moonraker, they're somewhat close. Like From Russia with Love is relatively close, and I guess it like the character of Bond, depending on the actor, had portrayed him better than others, right? I think that like
Right.
Sean Connery's Bond, well, I think he was great in it. Like, isn't very much like the Bond of the books. Like the Bond of the books is like
He's blonde
Probably-
in the books, isn't he too? Like Daniel Craig, and he blonde headed.
yeah, I think he's blonde. But he's definitely like more stoic, like Craig is like in Skyfall. Like my opinion, like that's probably the closest he gets to the Bond books. But I mean, I don't know. The Bond books, like the more Fleming wrote, the more cartoony they got, and the more.
See, I wasn't a big fan of the last few because I wasn't a fan of Daniel Craig doing that part. I don't know if
I thought he did good.
I don't know if I'm the only one feeling that way. I felt like there was too much action in the last handful because when I grew up, I was watching, and there wasn't a lot of action in the ones I was watching when I was growing up. So I thought that's the way they should have been. Like the Sean Connery ones, the Timothy Dalton ones, those, there wasn't a whole lot of action. I mean, there was chase scenes and shootings and stuff, but I just thought the Daniel Craig ones was just like pure in your face.
They were very Jason Bourne-esque.
They were. And so I just got a little turned off by him a little bit, I guess.
I love the Daniel Craig movies as a whole. Some are better than others. But other than James Bond, there's a lot of really cool like espionage books and films that came out around those same times as like the Connery ones. Like Michael Caine did like a whole line of espionage movies in the 60s and stuff that were less like action extravaganza and more like straight up cloak and dagger espionage,
right?
Like Ipcress File and stuff like that. Like Michael, all the ones Michael Caine did are definitely fun to watch.
I feel like with Daniel Craig, I feel like every other one was hit or miss. Like I liked Casino Royale, I didn't like Quantum of Solace, and then Skyfall was good. I didn't like Spectre.
Yeah,
I haven't seen the new one yet.
It's almost like they used to say about like the Star Trek films, right? It's like every other one is good, and the alternating ones are terrible. I agree. Casino Royale, Skyfall, and the newest one is really cool.
So I was disappointed with Spectre because I really like Christoph Waltz, and I just feel like he was wasted in that one.
Yeah,
he wasted him.
Yeah, and when you look at Inglourious Bastards and then or Django,
he's so good in that.
Yeah, and then it's like like anyone could have played that character in Spectre,
No. Did you have any? Speaking of Inglourious Bastards, was there any inspiration from that being in your Nazi Hunter series?
Yeah, for sure.
Or did that come out after you started writing it? I'm not sure.
No, I think it came out before. for sure. Yeah, for sure. I mean, Tarantino, I love Tarantino's films. And like the characterization and like, I think he's a master, especially he's just gotten better and better at like suspenseful scenes. And so like, if anything, I would say that I took from Inglorious Bastards, it's like trying to replicate like that very first scene or the scene when they're in the basement and just like where you as an audience member, you know exactly what's going to happen. And like, it's, you know, it's that old Hitchcock thing where, you know, Hitchcock said, hey, you know, have a bunch of people sitting around a table and a bomb goes off, right? Like that's a shock, right? And it shocks you for 5 seconds. But if you put a bunch of people at a table and you tell the audience, you show someone put the bomb under the table, then you have 5 minutes of suspense, right? Because you know, like you're just waiting, right? You're not
Just
listening
waiting for it,
right? And that's how those two scenes are, I think, in Inglorious Bastards. So I definitely tried to emulate that in a lot of Beast and Primal.
Well, I mean, Tarantino, there's your pure pulpiness too. That
For sure, yeah.
So
For sure, and like Kill Bill is my favorite movie, and like that I guess is similar. I don't think my books are as outlandish or cartoony as that.
no,
like,
definitely not.
but that whole like just hyper realistic, right? Is definitely there.
I want to know, like with the Sasquatches, because normally you see a book with a Sasquatch or Bigfoot, it's just one, you know, solitary creature. Was there anything different about you wanting to make it more like a herd of them? I guess you could say, like more than just one creature. I guess they'd have to because they're hunting them, so they can't just go one and then it's over. So like,
yeah, I think the idea being that like they're animals, right? Is how I try and portray them. Not all the characters see them that way. Some see them as monsters or beasts, right? But I guess the point of the book is like the beasts are more the human characters, the villains in the story, not the animals. And so I think to portray that Bigfoot or Sasquatch creature as more of a realistic animal that's just a endangered species, so to speak, it would make sense that there were more of them, that they live in a family pod. And like I get into, you know, where they live and how they live, and they're more, you know, all the violence that comes from those creatures is reactionary.
yeah, it's
Like
a reciprocation to what has been done to them.
Yeah, they're not. It's not like there's a bunch of them on the mountain like that are going down into the lodge or the cities or whatever and attacking people, right? They're not. They don't even hunt them for sustenance, right? And I go into like the other wildlife that's on the mountain and like how they survive and everything. So I wanted to portray them like that they're territorial, right? And they're, like I said, reactionary. And so to really set up I guess one of the catalysts in the film, as far as it goes to the creature feature aspect, like there needed to be multiple of them to explain why they do what they do.
I think you touched on just a second ago, but was it something conscious? Because I feel like the humans were more of the villains than the Sasquatches. Like I felt sympathy for the Sasquatches at certain points without giving too much away.
Yeah, for sure. That was the intent, for sure. Yeah, I mean, like other than the Nazi hunter who goes undercover at the lodge, like pretty much every other character is just completely vile.
Yeah.
and you don't necessarily know that when you first meet them, but when you get their backstories and then when you see what happens and how they react to certain situations, like they just get. Yeah, I put them in a different light, or at least I tried to put them in a different light.
I think I just realized that I've always looked at Bigfoot or Sasquatches or whatever as an animal and not a creature. While you were saying that, how the people were seeing them, because I think I've always like thought of them as, you know, why are people wanting to hunt this endangered animal? Basically, I guess I never looked at them as a creature. Yeah, we just had a moment. But
going into it, go ahead.
I was going to ask about his approach to these stories. Like, do you have a ritual you do before you start writing your stories? Do you have, you know, do you plan out certain time on certain days to get to these stories? Do you, because you said you plot everything out, do you also plot out your actual approach to the story and your routine to the story?
Not anymore. I have a 3.5-year-old, so I write whenever I have time to write. It's usually after bedtime. So yeah, so I fit it in whenever I can. Like I'm constantly thinking about whatever I'm writing, like, when I'm driving or when I'm doing whatever. So like it's constantly on my mind. So um whenever I have an opportunity to actually sit down in front of the laptop and start working,
Mhm.
like I'm not having to think about anything. I'm just like regurgitating what I've been saying in my mind all day long, basically. You know,
You have a good memory then. I mean,
Well,
I'd have to write stuff down throughout
or,
the day. Just,
or
yeah,
I have a good memory for the stories that I'm creating.
yeah.
I don't know about anything else. I'm sure I forget plenty of stuff in
So I thought it was cool in this one that the bartender, he serves a lot of different drinks, and then in the back you have the recipes for them all.
Yeah.
And then in the back of that, you say that you're a restaurateur. So did your real life sort of play into that a little bit? What to put these drinks in there and the recipes for them and everything?
Yeah, for sure. For sure. Yeah, like craft cocktails. I mean, not as much these days, but like definitely before was a huge passion of mine. And I have lots of friends who are, I guess, mixologists is the posh
The
word.
fancy word.
Yeah, exactly. But yeah, no, I think it was cool, and I wanted to make sure, like, so all those cocktails that are in the book or whatever are another like thing I had to look up, right, and make sure I was researching it. Like for example, like in the '60s, and they mentioned this in the book, like the big vodka to get was Stoli, Stolchnaya, and it was illegal, in the '60s because it's a Russian vodka, and so like if you could get your hands on that, then like that's what you wanted, right? And the alcohol content in Stolchnaya was much higher in the '60s, and so it was more expensive, and it was a better vodka. You can still get that today, but it's a much lower proof. And so I had to look all that stuff up. And then when I created the recipe book at the back, like I put in there, brands and everything that you can get and have access to now. So if someone wanted to make any of the cocktails from the book, they could, but maybe not with the exact same product that was available in 1965.
Did you do anything similar in Primal Reserve?
No. No, there's a whole different alcohol involved in Primal Reserve when you read it. Like I said, they go to visit a vineyard, so yeah.
Who do you
Sorry,
normally,
allergies are killing me and losing my voice.
You gonna make it? You gonna make it there?
I think I'll make it.
So you get done with your stories. You get done with your Beast and Primal Reserve and your novella. Do you let people in your family read it? Do they maybe not associate themselves with you after they read some of the stuff they read? Are you not invited to family functions anymore? Or
No,
do they welcome it?
No, yeah, they know I've been dark and brooding and so they're used to it. Whether they read it, I don't know how many of them read it. I know I have a few family members that are like diehard fans of it.
Yeah.
But a lot of them buy it. A lot of them buy it. Whether they read it, I don't know.
That's cool. We've had some people say that their mom reads it, and I'm like, that's just yeah. I'm not letting my mom read any of that, but still.
Yeah, I think the dedication in Beast, it says like for mom and dad, sorry it's so violent.
Yeah.
So yeah.
That reminds me of Shane Hawk's blurb, I think his grandmother did for him. Like, it's so horrible. Why are you writing this? Something like that.
Grandma or something. Yeah.
Yeah, which is like the best blurb I've ever seen.
For sure.
So you said you didn't read a whole lot when you were younger till after college or so. What was your first experience? Like, who'd you dive into first? Who kind of shaped your style or shaped your interest into getting your words down on paper?
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, like I read a lot of Chuck Palahniuk, but what I write is, I don't think anything like that. But I enjoyed his books, and like I enjoyed like picking up the next one. So I was a big fan of his. I'm still a big fan of his. But I think the book that really, really did it for me, and still my favorite book of all time, is Blood Meridian.
Okay.
McCarthy.
Book's good.
Yeah, I love that book. I've read it, I think, 4 times at this point, and like, every time I read it is like I'm reading it for the first time, or I'm getting something else out of it. It's like watching The Shining, right? Like every time you watch it, you can pick up something else, some other little nuance that Kubrick had. And like Blood Meridian is for sure, in my opinion, a straight up horror movie or a straight up horror book. You know, it's just like framed in like kind of a classic literature package. But it's I think straight up horror.
There's something in there that kind of triggered your writing feel, I guess. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it was just the storytelling and the way, you know, like it's the pacing of it and the characters and the underlying like nihilism in that book, and like there was something about it, well, many things about it, I guess, and anyone who's read it would probably agree. Like, I don't know, when I read it for the first time, I felt like I was doing something wrong, right? It just seemed like, how does this book exist, right? And like, you know, it's not like he's some hole in the wall, you know, author that, you know, 10 people are reading his books. Like, he's a, you know, bestseller. And like, I read that and I was just like, wow, like you can write this, right? This is what you can put out there, and there are no restraints. Like if Blood Meridian can get published and become a widely recognized and devoured, you know, book, like anything can. I think any extreme thing, any extreme story can.
I need to revisit that because I read it the first time. I enjoyed it, but I know a lot of it went over my head. Like, I don't know what he's trying to say here.
Yeah, well, that was the same. Yeah, same thing. The first time I think that's why I read it so many times. Like, and it's not like I read it back to back to back. But over the years, I picked it up several times, and I keep loaning it out. So I think I bought it like 4 times because I'm like, oh, you have to read this, and I just never get it back.
Is it written in the same style? I haven't read it. Is it written in the same style as The Road and everything else, with like no punctuation or?
Yeah, no punctuation.
I think that's just his style, pretty much, in it.
Okay.
And like the chapter names, the chapter titles are basically like a, you know, 6-line summary of everything that happens in that chapter. Yeah, it's very unique. And the first time I read it, totally, it went over my head as well. But I knew that I liked it. And then, you know, I've listened to and read a bunch of people's analysis of it and like what they got out of it. And that's just as cool. Like, you know, this person thinks it's about this person thinks about, and like, you know, just how people dissect it, and it keeps people talking, and it's kept me talking and wanting to learn more about it. And I think that's like the best type of art in general is, whether you enjoy it or you don't enjoy it, something that, you know, creates conversation. If you read something, you watch a movie, and your response is, yeah, that was okay, and that's where it stops. Like, I think that's worse than someone saying, I hated that movie. Like, that was the worst movie I've ever seen. That was the worst book ever. Like, can't believe someone did that, you know? I'd much rather hear someone hated my book than say that, yeah, it's okay. Yeah.
If you just feel mediocre about it, it's like, you don't have any passion either way. Like, you love it or you hate it.
Yeah, I just feel like if you, as a creative, whether you're, you know, an artist or a writer, or a filmmaker, a musician, if you can elicit some sort of emotion or reaction from your audience, you've done your job. Even if it's not the emotion you were going for, right? If you can get something, make somebody feel something, then that's the job of a creative, I think.
Yeah.
So have you read everything from McCarthy?
No way, no. And it's not like he's my favorite author even. It
was just that one.
That book specifically is my favorite book. Yeah.
So I know it was announced he's got a couple new ones coming out.
He's got 2 new ones coming out this year, I think.
Yeah, I mean, I read No Country and The Road, and I think one other one. So
you're talking about that, you know, people, you'd rather someone have something negative to say than, you know, be ho-hum about it. Do you look at your reviews at all, negative reviews or positive reviews or anything, or you just kind of let that be its own thing?
Yeah, sure. No, I do. I don't get that many, you know, so like, it's not like I'm getting inundated with them. I think that if I were, you know, getting a ton of them and it was becoming overwhelming, then I might stop. But
Mhm.
yeah, no, I do.
Have you gotten negative reviews? I haven't even looked at your reviews to see what you've gotten.
Yeah, I mean a couple on Amazon or whatever, or Goodreads or that sort of thing. So yeah, but the thing is, like, it's I look at it more to see is somebody reading it, right? Like,
Yeah.
it's great. It's great to see someone really liked it, but I'm more interested, like, hey, is someone reading it? So I mean, whether someone loved it, hated it, whatever, it is what it is, right? And like I've already put it out there, so there's no affecting that. I've already done my piece of it as
and you can hold that over their head. Oh, you give me 1 star because you didn't like it, but you read it, so
you read it, yeah.
you read my work.
What also, like, and I know that's a regularly debated topic about ratings and what's a good rating, what's not, but like what, like, if someone bought your book, right, they paid to read your book, they took the time to read your book, they took the time to leave a review, like,
Right.
I mean, like, that's pretty cool. Regardless of what the review is, or the rating is, like, somebody invested their time and their money in you, right? And so like that's what you're going for, right? You make a movie and you put it in the theaters and someone buys a ticket, like, guess what? The ticket's already been purchased and they supported you. They might not, now if they didn't like it, they might not support you a second time, but I mean, not every book is for every person, right?
Yeah, it's almost like they're working for you because they're leaving a review and they're reading the book, they're leaving the review, and they also paid you. So they're working for you and they paid you.
Right.
So that's a win-win in my book.
Right.
Yeah.
So are you a big fan of cryptids and whatnot, with Bigfoot and everything being, or Sasquatch being in this first one? And
yeah, well, I love Sasquatch. Yeah. I'm definitely going to pick up the Laurel Hightower's Mothman book. That sounds super cool. Yeah, like, there's so many cryptids and stuff. Yeah, that looks awesome. So
there's so much more to that than just the Mothman. I know our launch party last week, we were just talking about the Mothman so much about it, but trust me, there's so much more to that. There's much deeper story, not to give anything away. I would not give anything away, but yeah.
Yeah,
Mothman is just an added bonus to that, basically. Yeah. So,
is there like maybe a lesser known cryptid you'd like to incorporate into one of your Nazi hunter stories? You did.
I don't know. I
you
thought about it. Yeah, I thought about it, like, because, like, the tough thing is, and, like, even that was the hardest part of the third book. Like, it's got to feel. I don't want it to feel like you're doing the same thing every time, right? Like, it can't become formulaic. Because Beasts of the Caliber Lodge and Primal Reserve, like, they're very, very different. And it's not, I don't want it to be, get to the point where it's a paint by numbers thing, right?
Yeah.
And so I don't just want to be like, all right, next episode is the werewolf, right? And next episode is...
You just go through all of them. Yeah,
exactly. Like, it's not like the monster of the week type thing. I want it to just be very seamless as much as possible, where it blends in with the whole espionage piece. And so, like, that's the tough thing. It's like, how do you make those two worlds gel together, right? Because you can write an espionage story, you can write a creature feature story, but, like, putting them together, like, that's why I had to plot everything out, like I was saying. Like, it's gotta make sense. So I'm not saying
you'll go through the whole list of them, and then they'll start meeting each other for the next part.
Yeah.
With Godzilla met Mega Godzilla.
Yeah. The Avengers team up of all the
right.
and monsters.
The team up,
like your whole mashups and stuff. Yeah.
Yeah.
Freddy versus Jason and everything.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
That's crazy. Yeah. So, bonus here. What are you going to do for the rest of your Friday night as we start winding down here?
So
it's the weekend now.
Yeah, I don't know. Probably chill with the wife and kiddo and maybe watch a movie. Tomorrow I'll probably go to the beach or something like that.
How old is your kid?
3.5.
Encanto? Disney?
What's that? Yeah, we've watched that one. Yeah.
About 100 times since it's been out.
Yeah.
So, yeah. Before we get out here, so where can people find you? I don't mean outside your window. I'm talking about your socials. The Twitter, I don't follow you on, apparently.
Yeah.
Instagram, all that stuff. Website or anything?
Yeah. On Instagram, on Twitter, is where I'm most active, are the only places I'm active. I'm sure shows like your guys's.
And your books are available on Amazon right now?
Yeah, on Amazon.
Any other places?
Nope, just Amazon right now. And every once in a while, I'll get a handful of copies, and I send out signed copies for anyone who wants to get them directly from me. So you can
Yeah,
shoot
so
me-
you have some of these right now, right?
Yeah,
Signed copies.
yeah. I got a couple of those, and I have I think 3 more of the original Beast of the Caliber Lodge.
So you
copies.
got to get the original one.
I got this.
Put it on eBay one day.
They're an
Listen to it,
endangered
yeah.
species. Yeah,
There you go.
yeah.
That's how you should totally market it.
$500.
The endangered species are
I have.
going out.
I have.
Have
Yeah.
you?
Yeah, Jay would know too if he
Jay-
followed me on Twitter too. But
I do follow you, just buried underneath layers and layers and layers of other stuff.
I got it.
Controversies and name calling and all kinds of stuff.
That's what that mute button's for, right?
I gotta learn. The
Exactly.
only reason I'm on it is because Brad made me sign up for it last
I
year
made you.
sometime. Yeah,
Twisted your arm, didn't I?
I haven't figured out how to use everything yet on it, so I will one day. I will.
Nice.
So yeah, we'll wrap it up. Let you get out and start enjoying your weekend here. We can't thank you enough for stopping by, helping us kick off season 3.
Yeah, I'm honored I get to be first episode of season 3. Thanks for the invite.
And hopefully we get a lot of people watching this and they'll start picking up your books and leaving those reviews more than what you have, so you can start reading them.
If you like hunting Nazis, and if you like creature features, then we'll be right up your alley.
Yep. And there you go, everyone. LJ
Finished it
Dougherty.
today, and it was good. Like I said, if you like James Bond, if you like Indiana Jones, that kind of stuff, definitely check it out.
Yep. LJ Dougherty is our guest this evening, and we can't thank you enough for stopping by. That's going to do it. It's a wrap. Season 3 is up and running, everyone. So everyone in the chat, thank you so much for joining us. For those watching this later and watching it on the podcast form, listen to it on the podcast form. I guess you can't watch it on the podcast form, can you?
You could
Listen
I guess.
to it on the
Depends.
podcast. Yeah, I guess you can watch the lines, the audio. Thank you so much. Until we meet again. See ya.
So yeah.
Love you, Jay.
Bye, Brad.